Good morning, everyone. Hope you are all well. If you can just send a comment to make sure that you can hear me, since I'm using those earphones to block out the noise, I'd be grateful. In the meantime, we'll make a start. So I'd like to welcome everyone to our Ethics of the Fathers, learning the principles about character development. And we are going to, someone can just text. Yes, you can hear me. Okay. So today's learning is dedicated in memory of Leah bas Feivel, Sivia bas Mordechai, Avram ben David Slavin, Shlomo ben Yisrael Morris, Eliezer ben Shmuel Teret, Eliezer Shalom ben Avram Shmuel Beres, Tzipora Fegler bas Reuven Baruch, Shalom ben Elieli ben bas Feivel, from Shoshana bas Yaakov Shmuel, and in addition to that, Yisrael Yehuda ben Elchanan HaKohen, Nissan Yedidya ben Naftali Aronovich, Miriam Bas Nachum Bear. We wish each and every one of their respective families long life and only simchas. So today's Mishnah that we are studying relates to, okay, I can now take off the headphones. Hopefully there won't be background noise. The problem is when you have headphones on, that cuts out the background noise. You can't hear yourself, which I find very hard. So today's Mishnah, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to learn a Mishnah Daled, which speaks about when we eat, okay? Eating is important to Jews, in case you didn't realize. And then we're going to go on to speak about another Mishnah, which speaks about which speaks about a different concept. So let's make a start with this. We'll see how far we get. So Reb Shimon Omer, this is in Ethics of the Fathers, chapter 3, and it's Mishnah Daled. And these, again, the idea of learning the Mishnah, of learning these concepts and ethics of the fathers, is actually to refine our characters. None of us are perfect. We all, somebody says they cannot hear. Can you tell me if you can hear? You should be able to hear everyone. I've taken the speaker off. Okay. I'm hoping that everyone, okay, yes, okay. So, so the idea of this is that none of us are perfect, and therefore we should be able to refine our characters and to become better people. It's a lifetime's work. So let's learn this Mishnah, and we'll see that we have a fresh concept, a fresh perspective when it comes to something that seems rather menial and mundane, and yet, if we think about it, it plays a central part in our lives and in Jewish lives. I mean, if you think about it, there is no Jewish event that I can think of besides Yom Kippur that doesn't contain food. And for many, I know if we did Yom Kippur with food, it would be an even bigger success. I know I've missed a trick. But here we go. So if three people ate together and they didn't have any words of Torah, there was no good content to their conversation, it's as if they've eaten of offerings to the dead idols. And he brings a verse to support it. And then he goes on to say, conversely, and the interesting thing is why we need to say both, is that if we have three people that are eating together and they have this elevated speech, then it is if they ate mishulchana shamakom. You are eating from the table of the Almighty. In other words, you're eating on his table, something transcendent, something spiritual. And the question is, what is it that we are meant to achieve? So I'm going to give the answer by way of illustration from something that you are all familiar with, and that is from Grace After Meals. Okay? Now, if I was to ask you about how you have brought up your children and your grandchildren as to the correct etiquette, the proper way to behave when it comes to the please and thank yous, right? You would say that that one of the first things we teach our kids is to be polite, to be a mensch, that you should say please before. We're trying it actually with our 2-year-old now. It's quite a challenge, but there you go. She knows the please because that's the way she gets what she wants. She doesn't know to say thank you yet. But the idea is that we know that we would, before we get something, we say please. right? And then we show our appreciation afterwards. So therefore, after we've eaten food, we would expect that we would have a simple formula to say thank you to God for providing us with the food. Blessed are you, O God, beneficent one, who has provided me with all my food and all my needs. There you go. I've just created a very short form of grace after meals. That's not quite what we say, is it? I'll read the English. Okay? So you know the Hebrew. So when we speak in grace after meals, we say, "Blessed are you, O Lord, King of the universe, who nourishes the entire world." Good. That's sticking to what we would expect. In his goodness, with grace, with kindness, and with mercy. He gives nourishment to all flesh. Good. That's exactly what we want. His kindness is eternal. Right? Then it goes on to say, hold on. Where is it? Yeah, then so the first paragraph is speaking about food the way we would expect. Now we go on to the second blessing. And the second blessing is, "Blessed are you, O God, because you have given to our forefathers a heritage, a desirable good land," right? "You moved us from the land of Egypt. You redeemed us," right? You gave us the Torah, which you taught us its statutes, right? And then it speaks about covenants and etc., etc. So we seem to be in the first paragraph sticking to the script. We seem as Jews being able to stick to the point and thank God for what we've just received. And then all of a sudden we seem to go on a complete tangent, off on a tangent, and we're going all over the place. We're back in Egypt. We're thanking God for taking us out of Egypt. We're thanking God for the land of Israel. We've moved from Egypt to Israel. And then all of a sudden we're speaking about covenants, a bris, and etc., etc., and all over the place. And the question is what, where, how, why? And the answer is that if we have the correct perspective when it comes to food, right, then we will understand and we can truly say a appreciation and a thank you. In other words, there are two ways that your child or anyone can say thank you. The first way is that they just say toda, right? That's what our daughter can do. That's the extent of it. Thank you, right? It's something, but it's not much. Now, if we think about the way it is with, let's say, your spouse makes you dinner, okay? What are you going to say? You can say, "Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much." But as I and I'm sure many of us are constantly being told and reminded that that is not a real appreciation. A real appreciation is something specific, something where you're able to take into account all the efforts and the correct perspective in which the hard work and labor has taken place. So I want, you ask first about, wow, that was an incredible meat dish this evening, and how did you make it? Or did you put anything different in it? It tastes slightly different, and it was amazing. And then you can say afterwards, "Well, I really appreciated all your work, your efforts. I could see that, you spent a lot of time on it, and I really want to say thank you." That is a sincere, and I'm sure the women will say, "Well, actually, I could have done much better than that." But that is at least an attempt at a sincere and genuine and heartfelt thank you for what you have received. Okay. Now, when it comes to there was a student that came over. I'm just reminded, I think it was to Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky or Moshe Feinstein, and they were sitting, and the Rebbetzin brought out a cake. I think it was a cake, and all of a sudden they ate the cake, and then the Rebbetzin came back, and the boy said, "Thank you," right? And Ramosha started, and he was an exceptionally busy man. He had the world's problems on his shoulders. And he started asking about, "Can you tell me what you put in?" And asking about the ingredients and how you made it. And, and the boy said afterwards, "I didn't understand something. Why did you do that?" He says the same, and Ramosha said, "The same way that you've come to me, for me to take an interest in your life, I want to take an interest in my wife's life. That's the way that we really can show appreciation." And so when it comes to food is not an isolated thing. Food is part of something much bigger. In other words, there was a multimillionaire. I remember once having a conversation with him, and he said to me, once he'd made his money, that for him, food was just like refueling. It was just retanking, refueling. That's all it was. I hope that's not what eating is for us. I hope, on the other hand, that food is not some self-gratification, satiating our every desire and want, which grow by the minute, so that we can just, feel good, taste good, and so on. It's not meant to be either of those things. It's something which is insignificant, which we don't care about, and it's not meant to be, on the other hand, something which is a gastronomic feast and complete something out of this world and over the top. Okay, and perhaps one of the things that when it comes to the COVID is that many shul events, or simchas in particular, I would say simchas in an event, which are sometimes OTT with food, they'll come down to earth and be more realistic. And that's one of the things that people in the frum world are evaluating now, how we should do simchas in future. Perhaps this is a message for us. But coming back to this, the idea of food and eating is that we are meant to take something relatively mundane, something very physical, something very human, and we're meant to elevate it and that we infuse it with a sanctity. In other words, we see it in its true context, that food is something which we make blessings over, and thereby we elevate it, and we eat in order that we are able to serve the Almighty with all our strength, right? And therefore we put it in the correct context and perspective. And that is why we say all those things in Grace After Meals. We want ourselves, each and every one of us, to have the correct perspective to food and to life, that we shouldn't look at things in isolation, that we should be able to frame them in terms of leading a meaningful and fulfilling life, a godly life. There is nothing in this life that is mundane. Everything has or should have significance. And therefore, food is important, right? Clothes are important. Gifts are important, right? Everything is important, but not an end in itself. We are meant to see it in the correct perspective as a means to the end. And therefore, we are meant to value it because of the long-term significance that that thing can play as part of a broader picture and a beautiful tapestry in our lives. And therefore, when we come to food and eating, our conversations should be elevated. We shouldn't be discussing about other people. Discussing about the sermon is okay, but not about other people. And we should frame those conversations as something which is elevated. And the food itself, we should make blessings over. We should make sure the food is kosher. And therefore, what we are eating, you are what you eat, and you are the way you eat. And therefore, please God, we will ensure that our food and our whole gastronomic experience is something that is a culinary delight, but it is also something that is sublime in terms of our long-term spiritual growth. We're going to stop there. We'll do the other Mishnah at another time. And now I want to recite Psalm 23. Hope everyone is well, looking after themselves in this rather overcast weather. I'm told the good weather's coming back. Don't worry, it's going to be hot again. And when it's hot, then we can all complain that it's too hot. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Even when I walk in the valley of darkness, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Memorial prayer. We wish long life to all those that have Yortzeit today and those that are in their year. Hamatzei Menochana Alkan Peshkin Amamalais Kedoshim Materim Kazariki Masiv Es Nishmos Lebas Bible Sivibas Mordechai Avram Ben David Slavin Shlomo Ben Yisrael Morris Eliezer Ben Shmuel Ted Eliezer Shalom Ben Abram Shmuel Beres Tzipora Pegel Bas Ruben Baruch Shalom Ben Eli Ali Ben Abbas Bible from Rosh Hashanah Bas Yaakov Shmuel Yisrael Yehuda Ben Elchanan Hakohen Nisan Yedidia Ben Naftali Aronovich Miriam Bas Nachum Ber Shalachul Yolamam Began Aiden Taimanu Chosam Lachim Balarachamim Yatirim Besisa Kanopavlia Kanopam Sonam. Visobasachim Tishma Samadina and Achlasam, Vianucha Bishlamishkavam and Omar. Amen. Just before we conclude, I want to wish a warm welcome and a good morning to each and every one of you, to Harry, to Caroline, to Carol, to Richard, to Anthony, to Andrea, to Anthony, to Harry, to Jackie, to Michael, to Caroline, to David, to Michael, to Colin, to Richard, to Caroline, to Michelle, to Pal, to Jackie, to Richard, to David, to Sharon, to Michelle, Rachel, Andrea, David, and I think we've done everyone, Colin, Peter, David, Eitan, and StreamYard. It means so much to me to have so many people that are joining, that are learning with us this morning. It's a fantastic thing that we are doing, and please God, let's keep going, and we will be able to complete the whole of the ethics of the fathers, and by that stage hopefully we'll come together for a momentous celebration with food, but we'll eat that food with the right perspective. And now we conclude with a refuah shlema prayer for all those that are unwell. We heard, of course, of Leicester yesterday, where the cases have risen in number, and we are deeply concerned, and our thoughts are with them along with the rest of the country. And in Israel in particular, the numbers have jumped up, and therefore we'll make a refuah shlema for all those that are unwell. בעבור שאנו מתפללים בעבורם בזכות הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא רחם עליהם לחמון ופסם וישלח להם מפושרים מן השמיים לכל בהם בסוף שח ישראל רפואת הנפש רפואת הגוף השבח ריבן אמר amen. Wish everyone well, have a great day, and please God, we look forward later in this week, please God, in notifying the community about plans to gradually come back together and be able to pray in limited numbers in shul, but that is something we are looking forward to. In the meantime, we'll come together, stay together through the online content. Wishing everyone well. Have a great day, keep safe and keep well.